Entering his office in Washington, D.C., Thomas Jefferson, President of the United States, was pleased or glad to find his friend James Monroe waiting for him. Monroe politely rose to his feet, but President Jefferson said, "Sit down, James. This is not a formal meeting, as you can see." In fact, Thomas Jefferson was dressed in his robe and slippers. As the two men sat down, James Monroe thought to himself, Thomas Jefferson doesn't try to make himself look fancy or important, but he is the smartest, most interesting person I have ever known, even though he owns slaves. How lucky I am to be his friend. At the same time, President Jefferson was thinking, James Monroe is honest and intelligent or smart, and he is willing to work hard to do a good job. Speaking out loud now, the president said, "James, I have an important job I want you to do, one that I think you are especially well suited to carry out. I want you to buy a city for us." "I beg your pardon," James Monroe exclaimed in surprise. "Buy a city?" "Yes, I want to send you to France to see the Emperor Napoleon, who rules France and half of Europe as well. When you reach France, I want you to buy the city of New Orleans from Napoleon." James Monroe knew that the city of New Orleans sat near the mouth of the Mississippi River. The mouth of the Mississippi River is where the river empties into the ocean. French settlers started settling in New Orleans many years ago because they knew that ships and boats could travel up and down the Mississippi River, allowing people to buy and sell things all along the length of the Great Mississippi River. It was easier than walking or using a horse and wagon. James Monroe knew that France still owned New Orleans, plus a great deal of land west of the Mississippi River, stretching all the way to the Rocky Mountains. Jefferson stopped and stared into the flames of the fire by which they sat, for it was a chilly morning. Then he continued, "As you know, James, our nation, the United States, is on the eastern side of the Mississippi, while the area that France has claimed is on the western side. More and more Americans are moving near the Mississippi and building towns and cities along the river. We must make sure Americans can do business up and down the river if we're going to build up that part of the United States. Right now, France and the United States are friends, and Napoleon lets American ships pass by New Orleans on their way from the ocean up and down the river, but if Napoleon ever grew angry with us..." "I understand," said James Monroe. "Napoleon could stop our ships and boats from bringing us the things we need. He could stop our farmers in that part of the country from sending food they grow to the rest of us back east, or stop people in the east from shipping farm tools to the farmers. I understand why New Orleans is important, but why would Napoleon want to sell the city?" "Napoleon needs as much money as he can get his hands on so that he can pay for supplies, uniforms, food, and ships for his soldiers and sailors," Jefferson answered. "France is fighting in a war with Europe. We will offer to pay him the money he wants, which will make him happy, and we will get control of the river, which will make us happy. Napoleon certainly seems to have a reason to sell New Orleans to us," said Monroe. Jefferson replied, "He may have a reason, but we must get Napoleon to agree to the sale. He can be very difficult to work with, James. He thinks he is the most important person alive. If he believes you think so too, he can be a loyal, powerful friend. Loyal friends show their support for you no matter what happens. On the other hand, if he thinks you do not see him as important, or do not agree with his ideas, he will have his servants throw you out of his palace and slam the door. James, you are so likable, he'll want to work with you. If you succeed, you will help us to open up the whole western part of our country that is near the Mississippi River. Will you try?" If James Monroe was successful, Americans would be able to settle even farther west. James Monroe stood up. "It will be my honor to do so," he said. Thomas Jefferson arose, and the two friends shook hands. As he turned to go, James Monroe thought, "When I came here this morning, I had no idea I would be going to France for the President of the United States. And just think, I am going there to buy a city."